In 3, 2, 1, action.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the weekday. It's episode 40-something. That really stopped your mojo there, didn't it?
Yeah, I was singing the weekday song.
You want to try again? 3, 2, 1. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the weekday.
Ooh, that's too much. It's too down. It's too down. Yeah, find it in the middle.
Take three.
Middle ground.
Take 3.
Well, let's go with take 3.
3,
2,
1.
1.
No, you gotta.
Boom.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the weekday. It's episode 40-something.
What do you think?
Yeah,
that right.
That's a good energy.
That was it.
Cool. Hey, welcome.
Good.
Welcome to the weekday. This is the #1 podcast in the world for behind-the-scenes church content that we sort of prepare for. I'm Andy.
Lightly
prepare for.
prepare
I'm Andy, and that guy is Mike.
Hi.
And that guy over there is Justin.
Hey,
And that guy over there behind the camera is my oldest, Austin Tomlin. Say hi, Austin.
Hello.
Austin has just started in our Oaks program, which if you don't know anything about the Oaks program, the other Austin Slade, who's over there, the other Austin, so we've got 2 Austins in here.
Oh my gosh.
As if it's not complicated enough. Both of them are pretty similar, well, not similar in age. One of them is actually graduated college. Yeah, that's that Austin over there.
Yeah.
And it's weird. It's kind of, there's a lot
I know both of them.
lot of
And
Austin.
I feel really good about that.
There's a hard Austin energy in here.
Oh, horde.
Hard Austin energy. But yeah, anyway, my Austin is going through the Oaks program, which the other Austin already graduated from. And it's a delicious, delightful leadership development program here at Bay Hope Church. And I'm super excited.
Delicious, delightful development program.
You see?
Wow.
Yep. The triple D of development program of church leadership programs.
Yeah.
And that's what we do here. We develop leaders and then send them off to the wolves. Right?
I kind of.
Austin,
yeah.
scale of 1 to 10. Other Austin. Spencer's Austin. That's how we have to call him.
Yeah, Spencer's Austin.
Of figuring it out fame.
Yeah.
Spencer's Austin. Scale of 1 to 10. 10 being like you were a ninja. Number 1 being like you were sinking in the water. How well did Oaks prepare you for the real world?
Be honest.
Take your time. Dead air is
Be honest,
really good
yeah,
on an audio podcast.
Feels good. Silence feels good.
I would say a 9.
9.
9.
Wow.
I was expecting like you
High
to troll
marks.
it a little bit.
High
That's
marks.
amazing.
Yeah.
Melissa Miner's not here, who developed the Oaks program here at Bay Hope Church, but she would be very happy. Actually, she might be a little disappointed that you didn't say 10.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie.
She's that type of person.
10.
can't change
You
it.
give to- well, she'd be disappointed you didn't say 11 at
Yeah.
that point. So just so you know.
Yeah.
No, so my Austin is here, and we're getting to work with, are you working with creative? Who do you, videography?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Basically,
great.
whatever we tell him
Yes,
to do.
all of it.
Yeah, he's become our summer intern and hopefully longer, but I'm excited to have him here. I think it's real cool to be able to work alongside somebody that you also cook dinner for. So that's fun. Yeah.
You've never cooked dinner for me.
That is not true.
Actually, that's not
That
true.
is
You're right.
patently untrue.
Okay.
Do you want to get into Chili's again? Because I heard a lot of blowback on YouTube from that.
And you should have. That was the weakest hot take I've ever heard in my life.
No, it was
that I've
agreeing
talked-
with me.
No. Oh,
It was agreeing. It was agreeing with me.
Absolutely
and
not.
then it was also agreeing with the fact that Ruby Tuesday.
Oh my gosh! No,
Ruby Tuesday
you are
shut down.
ridiculous. This is dumb. We should not get into this right now. Every person that I have talked to,
I did this on purpose.
every person I've
I
talked
did this on
to
purpose.
has said that it was the worst take that has ever come
It's
from
my
the
hot
weekday.
take.
No, it doesn't matter if you're gonna rank takes on the weekday. That is the worst take that has come out of your mouth so far. So
No, I think worse has come out of my mouth. Worse hot takes have come out of my mouth.
that's the worst take that has been said here on the weekday.
We forgot to introduce our intrepid producer, Justin Deal. That's not true. We introduced
forgot to
him.
introduce ourselves. We didn't even say
I said I'm Andy and you're Mike.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Oh.
we can roll back the tape if we want.
Okay.
We do have a topic that we did want to talk about today, and it was a very intense topic, and it's something that came up for the last couple of days. But before we get there, thank you so much for watching, and we got to just kind of get our ads out of the way here.
These are ads.
This is our ad,
Yeah.
hashtag ad. If you are watching this
Self-ad.
on YouTube or on Facebook or on Bay Hope TV, thank you so much. Make sure to hit the thumbs up button right below, and make sure also to share this with one friend today.
That's it.
Just one friend.
Just one.
Because you can be the change. Make one be one.
And you know what? Only you, camera here. Only you can prevent forest fires. That's
Yes.
right. Only you.
Yeah. And
I messed that up.
my camera here.
Yeah.
And only you can change the world.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
I mean, I like mine better, but that's fine. That's
Yours is derivative.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bear said yours. I heard that guy
a
once.
talking shirtless bear. It's 2021. You
Hey,
think that would fly right now?
He had that hat on,
You
though.
think-
He had that sweet hat on.
He did have pants on. He was like the reverse Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, the reverse Donald Duck. Yeah, exactly.
The reverse Donald Duck.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. So, and the other place is that you can engage with this podcast as well, anywhere you find podcasts, but particularly Apple Podcasts and Spotify are our favorites, but you can also find it everywhere you listen to your pods. So thank you. Please continue to download, do all the things that you do with podcasts, because it really does help what we're trying to do. And not only us, but figuring it out as well. That other podcast that happens tomorrow. With that, we would like to kick it to our topic for today.
Ooh.
And so I am actually
big.
going to set it to Mike.
Okay.
And Mike will maybe set it back
again.
to me.
Yeah. I'm going to
And
set
then
it again.
one of us will split
Yeah.
because you get 3 hits,
Justin
right?
will. Justin will.
Yeah, you get 3 per
Justin
side.
will.
Three per
Justin's
volley.
normally like the hitman on our
Justin, yeah.
Wait, the what?
Hitman.
Yeah, you're the hitman.
The ball
Spike,
guy.
Spike guy? Spike ball?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Spikes.
Justin,
Never
you ever played
Spike Ball?
You've never
I'd
played
like to.
Spike Ball?
Nah.
Okay.
I don't have the
Looks
cardio
cool.
for it.
Oh, I love Spike Ball.
Mm.
I love me a good game of just running
Yeah.
with people because that's all it is.
Right.
Okay, so today's topic is actually a little bit heavier than we've been going the last couple of weeks. And it's only heavy because it does deal a little bit more intensely with church culture. And one of the reasons that the Weekday was founded, obviously, was to kind of have fun and make jokes about church culture and kind of how we grew up and all these other things. But the other side of it is that we do work for churches, and we've been in the church, I don't want to say system, because that sounds weird.
Just vocational ministry for a while.
I've been doing it for 12, 13 years now.
Mhm.
You've been doing it for 10 years, maybe
Sure.
ish.
Yeah.
And then we've been around church.
heavily involved for a long time.
Yeah, we've been around the church. Justin has only been in vocational ministry for 3 or 4 months now, but he's been involved in a church for. I mean, you've been in churches for what, since you could walk, basically.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah. So this is a topic that kind of strikes close to our heart, and I'm teasing it out a little bit. So Mike Mage, set.
Ooh, yeah, that was a good set.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's this podcast that I found out about, and I sent to you and a couple other people here on staff. And
Serena Williams just withdrew from Wimbledon.
I saw.
Yeah, that's weird.
So, okay, back to me.
Didn't mean to steal your thunder there, pal.
Come on, Serena. It's a classic Serena move.
I know. Always jumping in on the weekday.
Always stealing my thunder.
Yep.
So, yeah. So there's this podcast called The Rise and Fall of Mars Hill Church. And if you don't know what this is, or if you don't know what Mars Hill Church is, or even what this is referring to, so there was this church in the Pacific Northwest called Mars Hill, and it came to prominence about 15 years ago. And then
a little bit more than that. It was about 20 years ago.
Okay, about 20. Yeah, but really the
huge in
the
15 years ago.
2000s. Yeah. And I had a church base of our membership of like 15,000 people, multiple campuses, multiple pastors,
15 different campuses.
Which
is
really
insane.
A really heavy influence on not just church culture, but like church planting, as it like headed up a church planting organization, or at least heavily partnered with Acts 29, right?
No, they founded Acts 29.
Yeah, so they founded Acts 29, and really what this, so there's two kind of like parallel rails that this podcast is running down. It runs down, one of them is about the pastor of the church, whose name was Mark Driscoll. And I want to put a pin in that for a second. Another thing that this is about is sort of about megachurches in today's culture and society. And really, like not even necessarily today, but it's like a history of megachurches, what brought about a church like Mars Hill, and then eventually, obviously, what killed it, because it's the rise and fall of Mars Hill Church, because it was this super influential church, this pastor, Mark Driscoll, and I want to touch on that topic too. And I don't want this to be like a hit piece on Mark Driscoll.
Sure.
But like
it would increase our ratings.
I knew who he was, and I was not a fan. I'll just say that right now, and we can come back to that. But so it's fascinating to, and like he was influential and very venerated in a lot of circles, I guess, as a pastor of like a 15,000 member church. Got a lot of speaking engagements, book deals, podcasts. People were listening to his sermons by the millions every week. And so he had like a voice in our culture. And then it came out that there was sort of impropriety He was going onto message boards and basically just being a jerk. He was, and this is what they haven't gotten to this point yet, but I remember he already, like, the language he used was inflammatory. He was borderline offensive. I didn't agree with a lot of his theology.
I would say he was outright offensive, not even borderline offensive.
Sure, okay, that's fine. It's outright offensive. And but I mean, a lot of people didn't think that. A lot of people like thought that's exactly what this culture needs. You know,
I need a kick right in the face.
Yeah, and call out sin from the platform, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And so but basically, what happened is something came out about how he was like logging into message boards under a fake name and just like arguing with people and like slandering and using horrible language and all that kind of stuff. So that sort of rose to the surface. And then so on the outside, it was like, oh, Mark Driscoll, he's leaving Mars Hill Church because of sort of this incident or whatever. At least from my experience when this happened 7 years ago or whatever. It was like, that's what happened. Obviously he'd made an amp up until that point. And so but now this is really diving into the culture of not just that church, but really like mega churches in general. And it's fascinating because I think one of the reasons I want to talk about this topic is the mega church complex is not new to us. And like Bay Hope, for all intents and purposes, like we are a mega church.
Yeah, numerically, yes.
By definition, I think it's like over 2,000 members.
Correct.
And I mean, we see plenty more than that on the weekends, especially with our online attendance and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, what is it about this megachurch complex that we as a culture are like keep signing up for, I guess? Because, you know, I will say, as someone who works behind the scenes, obviously, of this church, this is one of the healthiest environments that I've been in. A lot of the things that they talk about with unhealthy church cultures in this podcast and in many podcasts, I was like, we don't deal with that. We don't deal with a pastor who is arrogant,
egomaniacal, and
doesn't listen to his people. Like Pastor Matthew is in our Monday production meetings. You know, like he has to go to the extent of like really over communicate how open he is to having conversations with people. And now, while, you know, he's busy and has a lot of stuff to do because he's running an organization with other people, you know, but he's the head of of a very large organization with, you know, 100+ staff members and thousands of members and all that kind of stuff. Yes, he's busy. You're not going to see him all the time. However, he's walking around the hallways, getting to know people. Like, he knows me and my family, your family very well. Our family, you know, like when mom passed away, like he showed up like
that day,
an hour after our mom passed away, to the hospice place. You know, like he's very involved in what's going on. And so, you know, like a lot of these issues that come up, you know, when we're talking about this, like, I'm so grateful that I don't see a lot of that. I still see some of it, but I don't see a lot of, like, especially the unhealthy leadership part. I don't see that here. However, there's like this Mark Driscoll, you know, like one of the first things I heard about him was he was at this male conference, manly men, whatever. Yeah.
Bacon.
Yeah. And he was talking, you know, I can't even remember. I should have looked this up because this is how little we prepare for this. I should have looked up, you know, when and where this was, but like you can Google this. Like this is very much something you can Google. But somebody was heckling him from the audience about something he was saying. So he invited the guy up on stage.
Oh, yes.
And he punched him in the face.
Yes.
And he said, that's what a man should do.
Yes.
And then they kicked the guy out of the conference. So that was the first thing I knew about who Mark Driscoll was. Like, you know what? I don't think that that's right. You know, I don't care. Yes, maybe he shouldn't like be disrupting the conference and all that kind of stuff. But like, I don't think as a pastor, you should probably invite this guy up for you to punch him in the face.
Why not? Counterpoint. Why not?
So, but you know, like I think that we keep submitting ourselves as a culture to this of these people who are charismatic. Yes, like he is charismatic and can put on a message, an hour-long message, and like you could be captivated by it, agree or not. Like there's this performance art of speaking to a large group of people and swaying the emotions of a group and all that kind of stuff. But like in the back of your mind, you know, gosh, I don't think that that's right. But you sort of like eschew it to like, you push it to the side because you're like, you know what, but this is, you know, but we're reaching people for Jesus. Why? Yep. So this is the biggest reason. And I'm circling this here a little bit, but why do we keep signing up for that? Why do we continue to follow leaders who are narcissistic, who we care so much more about their charisma more than their character. We care so much more about their ability to inspire rather than their integrity. Why do we as a culture, especially as a church group, why do we do that? And then when when the fall like inevitably comes, because it comes all the time.
Yep.
It always happens. There's some extramarital affairs, or there's stealing money, or there's lying, or whatever. Like if it always happens, they fly too close to the sun or whatever. And then we kick them out of the church, then there's no mercy, so like, I don't understand why we keep signing up for that as a culture. Like it feels weird, right? It's
so 100% weird.
Yeah.
And I think that as you brought this topic up yesterday, when we started kind of talking about it, I started trying to think of biblical examples, and just to kind of tie it, because I don't think it's not a new problem. I mean, right. It's not just American culture.
It is not a new problem. That is for sure.
Look at, I couldn't really think of anything biblical. I'm sure there is. And Lynn,
sorry,
Siri, thanks. Yeah. I appreciate it. Lynn, I know Lynn watches this show. So Lynn, chime in the comments, please, and let us know. Let me know what I'm missing here. Biblically, I mean, you can look at King Saul and kind of, the thing that.
How about every king that led Israel?
Yeah, but we don't know their speaking tactics.
Almost every king.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely narcissism and all sorts of stuff. But okay, so let's take that out and let's go to kind of an extra biblical source and look at Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar was hailed as warrior, prince, all this other stuff, but was an amazing speaker. He was very charismatic in his leadership, and yet ended up getting stabbed. Yeah, like that's a thing. So this is nothing new to our culture, I think, is the first point. The second point I would say is that we as a church society, we feel like we have to, if we're not feeling something, then we're not doing something right.
Yeah.
So if we're not feeling anger, then we're not affecting things. If we're not feeling tied together by some sort of common goal, then we're not really we're not affecting life change, or we're not doing, we're not being the church and all this other stuff. When meanwhile, the Holy Spirit's the one that does all that, first of all. Second of all, we tend to be idolatrous in everything. Yeah. Quickly. Right. And so again, nothing against Mark Driscoll. He was a jerk to his people, and he deserved to be booted out of his church.
Well, and it's so funny, like in the very beginning, and I won't say the word that they used, but like...
Say it. We could put the explicit tag on.
But in the beginning title, montage, and they bleep it out or whatever. It's not like, because it's a podcast put on like Christianity Today. But they basically just says like, plenty of pastors get fired. Mark Driscoll got fired for being a jerk.
Right.
And like... It's fascinating to me, that he was exactly who we thought he was, and yet 15,000 people plus the Southern Baptist Conference, the list goes on and on and on.
Rap that they did,
I know.
Oh my jeez.
But like the list goes on and on and on of people who like pushed his character flaws to the side, whether they knew that was true, and continued to put him in places of influence and leadership. Because of his ability, because of the results of his church, church membership, and because of his ability to speak. Correct. It's fascinating to me.
Correct. And one of the things that happens, and I think somebody references in that, but I was out running this morning. I was listening to the rest of what I didn't get to, and I remember thinking, as somebody was saying like, oh, there were people getting life changes and addictions being healed and marriages being healed, and like all that's great. Two things always come up to me. Number one, we as a society and we as a culture are so results driven and numbers driven that we are willing to just look past whatever we need to look past to continue to keep people like this in positions of power, because we can just sort of say, oh, it's okay. Like he's doing good. Yeah. But the second thing
imagine if he wasn't here, how bad it would be.
Well, but the flip side of that is, the second thing that I always say is, imagine if he was a good leader. Imagine how many people he would be affecting. Sure. Yeah. Imagine if there wasn't all of the negativity. So the 50% of people that he was angering, maybe 25% of those would actually get their lives turned around as well. So I don't know. I go with that. Justin, we haven't involved you in this conversation at all, and we apologize for that. And we'll get back to us in a second. But what does it feel like, first of all, to be on staff at a quote unquote megachurch?
I mean, honestly, because like,
And hold on, I need to back up. That sounds very haughty, and I don't mean it to sound like, "Hey guys, look at what we're doing here."
No, but
okay. So in the broadest senses, we're not a smaller church. We're not a mid-sized church. We're technically a megachurch. So, what does it feel like to be on staff in one of those?
I mean, it feels amazing because I think I'm not sure if I mentioned it on the show before, but this is actually the same church that I originally got saved in.
Oh,
I didn't know that.
So it's like, especially like with that in mind, like it's amazing. Because I've been coming here since 2008.
Okay.
And it was it was the very first time that I came that I got saved here.
Wow.
Dude.
But it's amazing. And I like, so because I was really just like listening a lot to like what you were saying, because I'm not super familiar with the whole like this whole like topic.
Sure.
But I think it like, and I think this is also like kind of what you were saying too, Mike, where because like when we put like that much like when we start following the people in a church rather than you know, obviously like God, that's when like we can really get like caught up in just like them and like as like a character and stuff, and like almost to a point like if you're not careful, almost like kind of starting to worship them and like the people in the church and
100%.
stuff. So that's like, and then so when something like that happens and like reality sets in, that like they're humans too. They make mistakes too. And like especially like if it's like a mega church like this, it can be like on a pretty big scale.
Right.
It's surprising kind of like when that reality sets in.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that reality check of just making sure like who it is that you're really following. Like still like, I'm sure there is, because I actually haven't listened to any of his messages or anything. Like, I'm sure, I mean, it sounds like there is great messages and stuff in there.
No.
Was there not?
No.
I actually don't know who he is.
He's one of those guys. So like the very first time I heard about Driscoll was in a book by Donald Miller called Blue Like Jazz. And I read that book back in like 2005, 2006, right when it first came out. And I had no clue about Driscoll. And Donald Miller calls him the cussing pastor.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
really?
Yeah, he would insert like certain phrases and curse words to really get a rise. He was like the Howard Stern pastor, kind of like a shock jock almost.
Yeah, very similar. Well, it was trying to be inflammatory to, I mean, honestly, like it's very similar to what you see.
So was he going for like a shock factor?
Yes.
Or like what? That's,
yes, but he's also very arrogant, and he just wanted to just anger people, I think. He was very confrontational.
Well, and I think that until he found out what could or would work, he was sort of circling this like, what do I mean, he has a style for sure, that's like loud and is abrasive or whatever, but that's not the problem of what he was talking about. The problem is like when he found an audience, when he found a niche, which was like this masculine, like we're a bunch of like men are basically babies now, and like you need to, I don't know. I don't want to get into it too much.
No. That like I said, like you're slamming them.
Yeah, and I obviously I have my problems. I mean, full disclosure. But like this, to me, this whole podcast though is less about Mark Driscoll, and it's more about the culture and society that allowed this thing to, or like we as the church, we allowed this to happen.
Well, yeah. I mean, because like it's again, I feel like it just keeps going back to fault like who it is that you're following. Like, are you following the person?
Oh, sure.
Or
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and it's so interesting too that you look at church culture now, and even back all throughout history, but how many large church leaders have fallen in the last 5 years?
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not gonna. Bill Hybels and Carl Lentz and like people that
Ravi Zacharias.
Oh gosh, yes, things that are coming out about these
criminal about things that they have gotten involved in.
Yes, and first of all, it makes Christianity look bad. It makes the faith look awful. It makes it look like we can't figure out what we want, and B, we don't know how to control ourselves, and C, we've tried to control ourselves too much, and then it just like bursts. It's a whack-a-mole thing that it just bursts out on the other side. But again, and Justin, I think you hit the nail on the head. It goes back to what do you follow? And when you create a cult of personality,
Right.
a church that is built around a cult of personality,
Yeah.
even though good things are happening and people are seeing Jesus and all that other stuff,
Yes, the Holy Spirit can still work in a lot of...
And the Holy Spirit does. But eventually things are going to implode.
Yeah.
And then you get kind of what we have today. And we can transition the conversation if you want, but I don't know what the future of the church looks like.
Well, I think I heard a pastor talking about this.
Is that thunder?
I think so. Yeah.
Cool.
I think so. It's thundering outside. I don't know if that's picking up in the mics.
No, that's in reference to something I'm going to talk about later.
Ooh.
But go Bolts.
I heard a pastor talk about, when we look around, and this is not like to slam the thing that you just said,
Sure.
but he said, when we look around us and say, hey, the church is declining, like, what are we going to do?
I didn't say the church was declining.
No, I know, but like, where are we going as a church? Like, what's happening?
Let's fight about it.
I know, that's why I said, I didn't mean to, I'm not saying this to slam you, but I think it's a super important point to say that, like, that's a pretty egocentric way to look or ethnocentric way to look at the church, because in China, in Korea, in Africa, in parts of the Middle East, like, the church is actually exploding. And like there's healing still happening in South America. Like, there's healing being done, like, there's miracles that are happening. People literally being brought back to life. And, we look at white suburbia and say, like, oh, the church is declining, because at the end of the day, like, we are the richest nation of all time in history.
Sure.
And I think Jesus meant what he said when he said, like, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to get to heaven.
Yep.
Or to find the kingdom of God or whatever. So, that's to that point, I think. But like, sorry, going back real quick to what we were talking about with the pastors and all that kind of stuff. There was in this newer episode, which you haven't listened to yet, but they bring on a woman who, I think she said she's a psychologist or sociologist or something, and she basically says, I'm a words person and I love words. She's a writer, I guess, too. But I have no words to describe the type of abuse that happens when a man, or not a man, but someone in power uses abuse in basically in God's name to make it seem like God is with the abuser, and uses that, like, as a source of power against. She's like, I have no words for that. Yep. And I think that there's some, because we're so numbers and results driven, there's this level of responsibility that I think is, like, so difficult for us to grasp. That when it comes to, like, when someone is responsible for thousands of people and leading thousands of people, like, every single thing you do should be scrutinized because this is what can happen. Like, if you just let it sort of go amok. And like, they brought in in that first episode, they brought in a consultant who's like a very well-known consultant who does a really great job in repairing and renewing relationships with people. And after 8 months, he basically said, it's not worth it.
Yeah. You guys are too screwed up.
I can't do anything.
Yeah.
Which is just like...
That's insane.
You get to that point, it's just like, wow.
Yep. Yep. Well, I continually think, and not to the church culture point, but I look at Mars Hill, and I was a worship leader at the time.
Yeah.
And Mars Hill music in particular, I was listening to a lot of Mars Hill music because they weren't weren't going down the Bethel track for me, and it was kind of it was different, and it was
they were bands, like they were they had bands coming in and leading worship, so which is different than like worship team, but like there was some sort of artistic,
they were their
almost
own,
like a punk rock kind of thing, like a rock feel to them.
Well,
like this,
one of them had
collective
tubas. One of them had tubas, and three of those bands that came out of the Mars Hill worship are still around and are still going and still kind of playing and touring. But so I got to watch that, and I was a worship pastor leading kind of 2 small groups at the time too, and I distinctly remember going through. I think Driscoll had an Acts series, and I was preaching on Acts, and so I listened to one message just as like a kind of reference thing, and I almost felt dirty after it. You know what I mean? Like it felt like I had watched like a rated R movie that I shouldn't have been watching, but I was kind of like. and I stopped, and I distinctly remember, like, I was in my office in New Jersey, and I hit pause on my laptop, and I like sat back, and I just went like, I shouldn't be feeling like this from a church. Like, I like these bands, and that's fine, and that's how I became connected with the whole thing, but I shouldn't be feeling like this listening to a pastor. Like, what is that, and why is this so popular?
Sure.
And that was 2011, maybe 2010.
Right.
And I never really engaged with it up until I saw this guy fall, and I went, "Oh, here we go." The thing I did want to point out about all this too, that also bugged me, that I think we as the church need to be aware of, is that Driscoll did an interview after everything blew up, and after he quote unquote resigned, and he said that he had an experience with his wife where she was in a room praying and he was in a room praying, and that God supernaturally told them that they were quote unquote released from ministry. And
at that church.
And like that bugged me too, because, and the guy that came on shortly thereafter, who was, I guess, a friend who was on the chairman or on the board, the elder board, said it's not fair for him to pull the God told me card.
Yeah.
And I almost wonder how much of our church culture right now is based on the God told me card.
Sure.
And that scares me.
Yeah.
Because the world has become, at least our world, again, white suburbia, our Western way of thinking has become so inundated with how many thousands of different messages each and every day.
Yeah.
And more people do less and less in terms of inner healing, inner silence, inner solitude, and really inner listening to the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
So how do we know that person in front of us is not pulling the wool over our eyes?
Yeah.
You know?
It's very hard.
Incredibly hard.
Yeah.
And that scares me.
Yeah. Well, and I think, there's, who is that listening to? I don't think I don't think I talked about something on the show, but I was listening to a podcast that's about just like pop culture and mostly about TV and movies.
Okay.
And they were talking about this new show called Hacks on HBO. And they were talking about Jean Smart, who is the female lead on that show. And she is 69 or 70 years old. And it feels like she's been around for a very long time, Jean Smart. She's been in a lot of different things. But it seems as recently, she's been in a couple of these HBO series and has been like blowing
really good.
Yeah, blowing like the acting, her roles and her characters, all this stuff out of the water, like well into her 60s, almost like she is finding this new gear. And, people are really, it's funny to see that like people are shocked by this. And even so, these two guys who I'm pretty sure are not Christians, they started talking about how we as a culture and society celebrate youth so much that we don't understand that for generations, people have not actually like found some sort of success, quote unquote, until well into their 40s or 50s in most things. And so I just, like, part of our social media age that we live in and kind of thing, it's like this rush to get a spotlight, this rush to get however many thousands of followers, this rush to get, some sort of notoriety as early as possible, rather than like, maybe we hit the brakes and maybe like, we don't need to rush into our ability. Like, just because we can connect with millions of people doesn't mean either A, we're ready, or B, we should, or you should at this exact moment, And I think that, it gets sort of like really weird. And they talked about in one episode about like, and they kind of like said it in a really weird way about how it was wrong using like, to plan a church, they were using basically marketing surveys. So like demographics and population studies, where people are living and all that kind of stuff. But they were kind of talking like, can you believe that this church would do that kind of thing to like grow their church? And I was like, well,
I can.
Yeah. And like, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. Can it be bad? Sure. If you go in and say like, this is a message that we're going to preach because we're in this area, because we know that we're going to get big.
Well, and we're going to put these colors on the walls, and we're going to serve this coffee.
Because we know there's a way for you to come at that feels greasy and gross. But there's also a way, just like using social media, you being the online pastor, understand this fully, that like, yes, there's a way for us to leverage our opportunity and our platforms for influence and impact. However, if your integrity does not come with it or come before it, is not strong enough to withstand it, then, like there can be giant problems. And so many times in my life, I think about, whether with Bellarive or with music in general, like I got very upset when we were in Bellarive that God was not, pushing us further or whatever, it didn't feel like we were being successful enough. But at the end of the day, success is not measured by the amount of people that we are impacting. Success is measured by how obedient and faithful we are to what God has called us to do.
Amen.
And we completely lose sight of that a lot of the time.
Yep. 100%. Cool. Justin, any follow up? I just looked at the stopwatch thing. I went, we probably should
Start wrapping up.
Yeah. Start turning the ship here.
Yeah.
Anything else we can interest you on this topic, Justin? Any follow up here?
I mean, I think that kind of sums it up really good. I like how, because you're saying that, like, just because you can do something right, like you think you can do something, doesn't mean that you necessarily should.
Yeah.
At this exact moment.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that should be used as an excuse to, like,
Right.
not go out and, preach to the nations or anything like that. But you have to make sure that you're ready for it.
Yeah.
Because, if you get to that point and, you're preaching to a bunch of people and everything, and everybody, like, say you get a big group of people start listening to you and stuff. If you're not ready, you can let that go to your head. And that's what, unfortunately, kind of what we were talking about today, like that happens to some people.
A lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, you really have to make sure that you're ready for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So definitely it's just a lot of, just listening to God is what it all comes back to.
Yeah.
So, Justin, when you become rich and famous off of this podcast, are you ready for the 1.8 million followers on Instagram that you're going to get?
Oof. Considering
You can monetize.
When was the last time I posted on Instagram? Months ago.
Yeah, that algorithm's
If
going
I
to
had
squish you.
that many followers on Instagram, I wouldn't realize it until probably months later. So,
Yep. Yeah.
That's why we love you.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks for the discussion. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I don't know what we solved other than I think it's a good topic to bring to light, and I would love to hear.
Well,
go ahead.
As I say, I have one thing I think that there's a lot of people. I mean, as we were talking about it, I was thinking about all of the times there has been many, a couple of big ones too. And I don't want to go into it, but like a couple of big ones where either a pastor or a leader of a ministry, a pastor of the church has done something where it seems completely inexplicable and oblivious, blatantly wrong. So much so that where some of them have like gotten removed from the church, their credentials, whatever, like that has happened to you and to me.
Hold on, we haven't been removed. We've been in situations where it's happened around us.
Sorry.
Yes. Okay.
We have been in those positions.
Whoa.
Yes, we have been in this where the pastor or the leader or whoever has gotten removed from those positions.
Yes.
And, I know that there's plenty of you out there that this has also happened to. And being a Christian is like gives us the best opportunity to say sorry. And so I can't speak for the church, but if you have been hurt by them, like, I'm very sorry that you have had to go through that. That's not what the church is there for. And if anything, the church is blessed to give blessings. That's what the church is there for. It's not blessed to consolidate power, to make decisions,
or to consume.
Yeah. And, I am so sorry that you have had to go through that, whatever it is. And we just need to say sorry more.
Yeah. That was really touching, Mike.
Thanks.
I appreciate that. Cool. Well, I'm going to say sorry because I'm going to move into segments here.
Get that hard clutch.
There's no easy way to come out of that. I mean, the long and the short of church culture is that it's always going to be messy.
Yeah.
It's always going to be flawed.
Yes.
It's always going to be top heavy. It's always going to be this, that, and the other because we're human.
Right.
Because God gave us control, literally gave us the keys to the kingdom. And we most of the time can't even find the door, let alone like figure out how to open the door. I'm serious. That happened since Adam and Eve. Like he kicked us out of the garden. And ever since then, we've been trying to find our way back in and not actually looking at the source of how we can get in there.
Right.
But the cool thing is that there is redemption and forgiveness and healing, and there is there's a Holy Spirit that says
Yes.
like, hey, it's okay.
There's always a path
It's
to
okay.
restoration. It
Yeah.
might look very different, and there's also real world consequences that happen because of
Correct.
our actions.
Correct.
But there is always a path to restoration.
Correct.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, now I'll make the gear
Yeah,
shift
okay,
there.
cool.
That's
Yeah.
good.
All
So I want to move into segments. First and foremost, we have our gigantic hot take section. Do you have a hot take?
No, because you said you had one.
I do
so,
have
yeah,
one.
I would like.
Now, before we go any further, I want to know
I do
who.
have one. Sorry.
Do you want to go? Because
No,
I was going to offend some
I want
people.
You to go. I want you to go.
Okay. All right. So, Justin,
Yes.
what's your favorite sport?
to watch or play?
Both.
Watch football, play soccer.
Okay. Mike, favorite sport?
Oh, hockey.
Hockey.
Easy.
Watch and play?
Yeah.
Okay. For me, it's a tie between hockey and soccer. So here we go. Hocker.
Saki.
Sake's with the Japanese drink. My camera, please, Justin. Thank you so much, sir. My hot take for the day is this. Out of the 4 major sports, 5, because soccer is actually like on the list now.
Okay.
It is. Like it's becoming
Sure,
more and more
whatever,
popular.
Whatever.
But out of the 4 technically major sports, so you have basketball, you have baseball, you have American football, and you have ice hockey
Yeah.
in the United States.
Yeah.
Of those 4, the worst by far,
Oh, this is-
not even close,
We're going to agree with this.
is baseball.
Oh, we're not going to agree with this. Keep going.
Baseball is the worst out of all of them. And let me tell you why.
Okay.
Because the only reason you go to a baseball game is
Yeah.
what? It's a 4-hour conversation,
the
and
ball.
there's sometimes a
That's-
game or
is it to
catch a ball.
Yeah.
The only reason you go to a baseball game is that it's a 4-hour conversation with your friends, and then occasionally baseball happens. Right?
Yes.
Occasionally stuff happens.
I will concede that I've never been excited at a baseball game.
I have been to many baseball games. I can recall one time I've been excited,
No.
and that was when they were going to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And that was it. Other than that, baseball is the worst sport. And here's my example. COVID removed crowds from all of those
Yeah.
sports. What was the only sport that truly suffered without a crowd there? Baseball.
Yeah. I mean,
Baseball did. Baseball became interminable. It really did. It was like so bad to watch on TV.
I mean, I don't really have a.
What were you going to say? Basketball's the worst?
Yes.
Okay. I used to think that. And then
See, I honestly, I would much rather go to a baseball game than I would go to a basketball game. Because, and here's the reason why.
Okay.
Basketball should be more exciting.
You're talking the NBA.
Yes.
Okay.
Like basketball should be more exciting. It's constant action.
Yeah.
You know, like it is, there's a clock,
Mhm.
you know, that like is supposed to create
There's even
tension.
a thing called a shot clock.
Yeah, there's 2 clocks, darn it. That's supposed to create tension and everything. But I took you for your bachelor party to a Atlanta Hawks game, and I have never been more bored at a sporting event than I did at a I mean, these men get paid millions
That was
of
pretty boring.
dollars
That was pretty boring.
to like play a game.
To be fair, it was the Atlanta Hawks of 2014. They were really bad.
It doesn't matter.
And who were they playing? The Magic?
No, they were playing the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, the Suns.
Yeah.
Okay. 2 decently bad teams.
But like, okay, so like go to any hockey game.
oh, I'm with you on
No,
that.
I know. But like basketball has more in common with hockey than it does with football. Yes?
Yeah.
5 people on the court.
Yeah. Constant subs in, subs
It's pretty
out.
much constant action.
Yep.
You know, like there's penalties, whatever. Obviously
sure.
there's penalties in football, but
Sure.
like
No, I'm with you.
it should be more exciting. Baseball, I have zero expectation of it being exciting. You know, like I know that it's going to be a slow endeavor. And like it's almost like golf. You know, like I don't expect golf to like get my adrenaline going. You know?
I would rather watch golf than baseball in a heartbeat.
And I would too. Because like I know what I'm getting myself into.
Sure.
Basketball cannot be like golf. It can't be. And basketball should not be like baseball. Basketball should be more like football and hockey.
What do you think about watching basketball on TV though?
Same thing. I cannot stand it. Like unless, and I really like, I like watching.
College basketball.
No, I don't even like watching college
Oh, I
basketball.
do.
No, because it's a bunch of hack. Like it's it's too much passing around and doing the swings at the baseline and nobody's shooting. And if you do shoot, nobody's actually a very good shooter. So just banks off the back. Like I'm not a student of basketball strategy. Nor do I care that much.
I could diagram you the triangle offense right now if you want.
No.
It's pretty simple.
If the Final Four is on, I'll watch that. And if like the finals are in and LeBron's in, I'll watch it. You know, like the Heat last year, like I was watching them.
Sure.
Like that's pretty cool. But for the most part,
that's fine. In my opinion, is baseball's the worst out of all of them.
Okay.
Sorry to the Weekday Army. It's turn the podcast off if you want.
Well,
I really don't
so
care.
I have another hot take real quick.
Okay, let's do it.
And this will be quick. All right. Hey, so Britney Spears conservatorship.
Oh, yes.
That's been in the news lately.
Yeah.
Massively underrated. Britney Spears is.
Yeah.
And
wait. What part of Britney Spears? Like artistry or the story?
I think Britney Spears is number 4 all time in best female recording artists in albums sold of all time.
Yes.
Did you know that?
Yes, I did.
Like only
because I read it like 2 days ago.
The only people above her are people who were like Madonna,
Whitney Houston.
I don't know if Whitney Houston's in there, but like Madonna. Look it up. But Madonna, who had the primary of her career was in like 80s when all people did was buy albums.
Right.
Britney Spears has had the last half of her career be in a time when Adele's up there too, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep going.
So Aretha. Okay, Madonna number 1, Mariah. Okay, Mariah. Janet Jackson. Whitney Houston. What? This is not.
Oh, this is a different list.
Oh, I don't want to look at that. Okay,
whatever. So, but she's in top 5 of best-selling female artists of all time based on albums, and like it's crazy. It's in like the crazy millions, and like it's just nuts. I didn't know that. She's way underrated in that aspect. This isn't right either. This is a different thing. So yeah,
that's fine.
Okay, that's it. That's my hot take.
Okay, I mean I agree with you.
Yeah, I don't like her music, but she's just like way more underrated than I thought it was. I was like, oh, it's Britney Spears. Like, who cares anymore? And then I saw the numbers. Like, oh my gosh.
Sorry, you hashtag free Britney.
Absolutely.
Yeah, me too.
Get her out of there.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, she needs it. Has it been decided?
I don't know.
No, it hasn't yet.
I
Okay,
haven't
cool.
been following it that much.
We need to move into our podcast pop quiz. And if you've never joined the Weekday before, thanks for joining us. And also, the podcast pop quiz is based on a premise that there's a podcast about everything, and we will be able to find it. I think that's the premise that we've continually added on.
That is a premise.
It is technically
the
a
premise. Yes.
So, Austin Tomlin, since you are new to this,
whoa,
give us just a random. Just give us a random first topic that popped into your head, and we're gonna find a podcast about it.
Sports.
No, it has to be a little more
difficult. What's something that you think that there isn't a podcast about?
Vending machines.
Vending machines. Ooh, that's a good one.
All right.
Yes, I love it.
I'm
that's
here for it.
That's a fire take.
I'm here for it.
That is spicy.
All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna put 60 seconds over there.
Yes.
And we're gonna start the clock in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Vending machines.
Finding that podcast. I feel like the clock needs to start.
Oh my gosh, this is the first one.
Are you serious?
Millionaire Mindsets, episode number
Oh
71.
my gosh!
Making money in the vending machine business with Marcus Graham. On today's
Holy
episode,
cow.
special guest Marcus Graham. I mean, that was less than 5 seconds.
That was wow.
Why was that one so easy? What?
You want it? Okay, hold on. We'll do a take 2 then.
Oh.
We'll do
I don't know.
like vintage vending machines. So like, you know, the old Coke machines?
Yeah, okay.
Actually, there's a funny story. Did you know there was a Coke machine? I think it was in, it was stolen in like Portland, because Portland is weird.
Okay.
And then it was gone for like 2 or 3 years, and then all of a sudden it just showed back up.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that. Hey, okay, real quick, rather than doing that, look at all of the
vending machine podcasts
about vending machines. Like, this is nuts. What we need to sign off. We need to end this podcast eventually. But like,
there's even one called Vending Times.
the amount
like, it's an actual
of podcasts about vending machines is underrated. Holy cow!
This is a whole podcast.
We gotta go. We gotta get off. This is it. This is done.
No, there's only 6. All right. Hey, thanks for joining us on the Weekdays, episode 40 something. We love you. We'll see you again.
Bye.
Go Bolts. Hey, thanks for tuning in to Bay Hope TV. Be sure to like and share these videos with your friends, as it really does help this channel out. And be sure to subscribe for more Bay Hope TV content. As always, thanks for watching.